Thanks for coming today, for joining our presentation of Intro to Streams, Stormwater and Flooding. My name is Rebecca Zazis and I work for the Allegheny County Conservation District. I'm here to discuss the basics of watersheds and streams to help shed light on stormwater and flooding. Please feel free to use the chat box to ask questions. Amy, my coworker with the Conservation District, will organize questions as we move along. And at the end of the presentation, we will hold the Q&A. My mom tells me every time I talk to her that I talk too fast, so I'm going to try very hard to pace myself. Okay, what I hope you'll learn today is an understanding of what a watershed is, general qualities of streams in our area, that flooding is natural, and that changes we've made to the landscape have created stormwater and flooding issues. Just as important, I hope that you take away that action in reducing the impacts of flooding and improving water quality can begin with you today. Changes where we live and sharing this information with others can begin today. What energizes me personally and professionally is the saying, if everyone does a little, we can all do a lot. Understanding the basics of the world of water and lighting a spark to make a change at home, or at least share with others, is an important piece of the solution. It is not the solution, but it is a piece of the solution. There's an enormous amount of information that we can include under this headline. I want to call out that this is not a one-stop shop presentation, but an introduction. Streams, stormwater, and flooding are complicated. My goal is for you to get to know the basics, for you to observe things, and for you to think about how you manage your own properties and help others understand this stuff. So this is very much a presentation focused on increasing understanding of the natural world, changes made to the natural world, and what we can do where we live. We are not talking about the big stuff today, like regulatory rules, large developments, addressing sewer systems, or zoning and ordinances. So here's the journey we're about to go on together. The big idea is that we all live in a watershed, that streams are part of a watershed, that there is a natural system in place, and that people have changed that natural system. What is a watershed? A watershed is an area of land defined by hills, ridges, and elevation. Watersheds contain everything within it: land, streams, trees, soil, your house, the grocery store, everything. And water flows downhill. So all of the rain and streams within the watershed will flow from high point to low point until draining at a common lowest point. When you hear shed, think shedding water. Watersheds are also called drainage basins because water drains downhill within its boundary, the basin. Imagine the dashed line on this diagram, which represents the watershed boundary, is the top of a funnel. Everything that is poured into the funnel stays within the funnel and comes out at a single point. No matter where you are always in a watershed, even in a completely flat field of corn in Iowa. Watersheds are both very big and very small, and they are nested within each other. In this map of the country, you can see that the Mississippi River watershed is around 2/3 of the US. Any rain that falls here can reach the Mississippi River and the Gulf of Mexico. That includes all of Allegheny County. Let's say I'm broadcasting live from this pink star along Pine Creek. If I put a rubber ducky in right there at that star, then it's able to make its way with no obstacles. It will float down Pine Creek and into the Allegheny River. And from the Allegheny River, it'll flow into the Ohio River. And from the Ohio River, it'll float into the Mississippi River. And from the Mississippi River, it will float to its endpoint, the Gulf of Mexico, because the Gulf of Mexico is at level 0 elevation. Because watersheds are nested, my rubber ducky, before it sets sail, is located in the Pine Creek watershed, the Allegheny River watershed, the Ohio River watershed, the Mississippi River watershed, and the Gulf of Mexico watershed. Another example, my family lives in Westmoreland County in the Turtle Creek watershed. If I placed a rubber ducky in the Turtle Creek watershed, it would eventually float to the Monongahela River, then into the Ohio River, then into the Mississippi, onto the Gulf. My best friend Donald lives in Burlington, Vermont. The water from his property sheds to the Winooski River, where it flows into Lake Champlain, and that flows into the Richelieu River, then into the St. Lawrence River, where it meets its final destination at the Atlantic Ocean, which is at elevation 0. Note how connected we are through watersheds. Water from Pittsburgh and everything it carries with it can reach the Gulf of Mexico. On a smaller scale, water travels from a municipality that is positioned upstream of another municipality, or from one neighbor to another. Streams, which are a part of the watershed, are transportation highways. They move water and sediment and anything else that makes its way into a stream, including the not so good stuff like litter and runoff carrying chemicals. This photo is an example of a source of sediment, stream bank erosion. Here's a bird's eye view of a typical natural stream. There are different kinds of streams. Headwater streams, which are steep and fast moving, lower elevation streams, and rivers that are large and flow in flatter terrain. For the purpose of this presentation, I'm focusing on the middle of the road stream here. This represents medium-sized streams in our area. Think of Deer Creek, Bull Creek, Turtle Creek, Chartiers Creek, Pine Creek. A natural stream has some curves, or technical term meanders, which help to slow down flow. Think of driving on a highway or the turnpike versus driving on a winding road. You can really cut loose on straight roads, and not just because of the speed limit. Those straightaways physically allow a vehicle to move faster, whereas a winding road forces you to slow down because otherwise you can run off the road. In addition to having meanders, streams have floodplains. A stream channel is formed by normal flows and normal precipitation. The floodplain is formed by intense flows and heavy storms. Floodplains are called floodplains because that's what they do. They flood. Streams have floodplains because streams are supposed to flood. For a stream, flooding is natural. As rain falls and runs downhill into a stream during a storm, flows will increase and need somewhere to go, and that place to go is the floodplain. This is the space for water to spread out, slow down, and drop out sediment. Some of the flow will be absorbed into the ground or by vegetation lining the stream. Streams are always changing. This is called stream channel migration. The stream channel adjusts to carry water and sediment. A channel can migrate gradually over time by banks eroding and sediment moving to a new part of the stream, or experience a quicker move from a heavy storm event. The floodplain provides that space for the channel to move as it needs. Here's a glamour shot of a stream using its floodplain after a heavy rain. Once everything calms down, the stream will get back to its original channel size. Think of this as elbow room for the stream and all of the increased water that's coming into it, both from direct precipitation and from runoff from the surrounding land. Another photo of a stream using its floodplain. As the water spreads out, it drops out sediment and loses speed. Another important part of natural streams are the trees, shrubs, and grasses that grow beside them. There are so many valuable services that riparian buffers provide, one of which is slowing floodwaters and the strengthening of stream banks, which reduces erosion. Buffers provide protection both ways, by slowing and absorbing water running off the land, and by helping to do the same thing from within the stream itself. This illustration also shows those stream qualities we just talked about, floodplains and meanders. Notice on the unhealthy illustration, the stream is straight and there's no floodplain or vegetation. This diagram really brings home how important vegetation is. Vegetation provides help from leaves to roots. Roots hold soil in place and increase storage space for rain in the ground. Leaves slow down rain and runoff, and vegetation transpires water, which is a process of rainwater from leaves evaporating into the air. Keep in mind, stream bank erosion and tree loss are both natural processes. In completely untouched natural areas, you will still see stream bank erosion and downed trees. To sum up natural streams, they have meanders, they have floodplains, they are forested. Streams are supposed to flood. Natural streams can handle their job duties under normal conditions, adjusting and carrying water and sediment from runoff and from within the stream itself. Okay, so we've covered a bit of the basics of watersheds and natural streams. Let's now add us humans into this. Enter stormwater. Stormwater is exactly what it sounds like if you're unfamiliar. It is water that starts as rain or snow, and any water that does not get absorbed becomes runoff. In this photo, you can see water is running off the driveway and sidewalk into the street, into the sewer system. There's also water coming into the storm drain from up the street. Through the sewers, runoff will reach a stream or river. There has always been stormwater, even before people got involved. There is stormwater from forests and fields, too. The increase in stormwater is the result of changing our green spaces to gray spaces. Now, coupled with the increase in precipitation this region is experiencing and will continue to experience. We have turned in the sponge of natural landscapes to pavement, roofs, roads, malls, homes, you name it. This slide shows what kind of change that brings, from 10% runoff in a natural setting versus 55% runoff in a developed one. There is less absorption by trees and plants and by the ground itself. Another example of the loss of water storage and increased runoff of green to gray. In a space of 10,000 square feet of impervious surface with an inch of rainfall, there is 639 cubic feet of runoff. In a forested area, there's 3.9 cubic feet of runoff. No contest there. Just another slide to bring the stormwater point home. Gray space removes or severely reduces a landscape's ability to absorb water. Think about this parking lot during a rainstorm. As soon as the rain starts falling, runoff begins flowing off the parking lot into the street and into the storm drain. Now imagine this parking lot is a forest. It's raining, minutes have passed, and you still haven't felt a drop of rain on your skin. The rain is falling on a huge canopy of leaves. Some of the rain will drip to the ground, which will then absorb it. The stormwater runoff that makes its way to the storm drain enters the sewer system, which will eventually outlet to a stream or river. There are two types of storm sewer systems, combined and separated. Older cities and municipalities, like the city of Pittsburgh, are likely to have a combined system, while newer communities have separate systems. Combined means that one pipe will carry both the water from your home and the stormwater runoff outside to a water treatment plant. For people living in a combined sewer community, they should think about when they're running the dishwasher, taking a shower, and doing laundry during a rain event. Because all of that water is going to the same system as the rain running off their roof, their driveway, the street. If you're familiar with the headlines of raw sewage flowing into the rivers, this is how it happens. A sewer system that is not sized for all of that water has to dump somewhere, and that somewhere is the rivers. For separated systems, the pipes inside your home lead to a water treatment plant, while the sewer lines in the street are carrying just the stormwater runoff to streams or rivers. Whether separate or combined, sewer systems can get overwhelmed by flows. There's just not enough space. The storm drain inlets can also get clogged with debris like litter, sediment, and leaves. This slide compares runoff in a watershed pre and post development during a storm. Moving right on the graph is an increase in time, and moving up on the graph is an increase in stream discharge or stream level. For an undeveloped watershed during a rain, the dotted line, rain, is slowed by trees and absorbed into the ground. A portion of that water may run into a stream. The stream level gently rises and falls after the rain has stopped. For a developed watershed during a rain, the solid line, rain immediately runs off parking lots and roofs and quickly runs into the stream. This intense peak in runoff causes flooding and erosive forces that overwhelm streams. The stream level quickly falls after the rain has stopped. Some of you might be familiar with the term or personally experienced flash flooding. Keep in mind too that the Pittsburgh area is very hilly. Runoff is really able to pick up speed as it's running off those hills and steep slopes. Okay, remember the healthy stream qualities? Space to wind around, a floodplain, forested. We have made changes to our streams to make way for building roads, houses, and businesses. Eliminating or restricting the floodplain and vegetation, channelizing the stream, which turns it into streams into speedways, combined with the intake of stormwater, both from directly running off the land and from the sewer outlet pipes, overwhelm streams. And just like storm and drain inlets getting clogged by debris, streams can also get jammed up with things like trees, branches, sediment, tires, which also causes flooding. More examples of Allegheny County streams that had their best qualities removed: straightened, no space to roam, no trees, shrubs, or grasses to help slow down incoming flow, no elbow room. Those examples of unnatural streams are extreme. You may not have any streams where you live where stream banks have been exchanged for artificial walls. Here's the type of stream you might have around your turf. Doesn't look too bad. There's a floodplain, I'm seeing some curves, there's at least some vegetation. But what about all the water that's coming downstream during a rain event from all the communities above it? What about all the storm water rolling off the roads right past those grassy hillsides? No trees or shrubs to help slow runoff, hold the banks in place, catch sediment from upstream. While there is a floodplain, it's squeezed by roads. If flows do not have enough room, that channel will fill up and spill out onto the street. Don't forget the watershed. The upstream development, lack of riparian buffers, and squeezed floodplains leads to consequences downstream. As you can see, the downstream photo seems to have all the right stuff. It's located in a forest and there's room for a floodplain. However, the amount of water that routinely flows from the development upstream is blasting through and eroding that stream bank in a forest. Another stream that does not look so bad at first glance. Again, there's a floodplain, there's some trees, the stream is allowed to express itself, but just like the stream in the previous slide, there is water coming from every direction, from upstream, from off the road, from the outlet pipe carrying stormwater from the street. What if instead of a neatly mowed property, the stream had forested banks to slow down the rain from all directions? Don't forget the watershed. This stream doesn't look too bad on its own, but it does not exist on its own. It's part of a system, the watershed. The upstream development, lack of riparian buffers, and squeezed floodplains leads to consequences downstream. Streams can't handle it. Just like the undersized sewer pipes, they are not equipped to take on both the amount and rate of stormwater runoff. This portion of the stream in the photo begins at the top of the hill of a neighborhood. It goes into a pipe, then opens up as a stream again, where it is surrounded by a paved path and mowed lawn, then enters this channel, and then outlets here back in the outlet to go back underground. As you can see, the stream channel is blown out and the stream outlet structure is completely jammed. Too much water, too much fast water. What about the flooding that happens in your neighborhood that is nowhere near a stream? This is called street level flooding. Notice on the diagram that this type of flooding occurs in developed landscapes. This slide is a bit of a review. We've gone from green to gray, and when there's a lot of rain with nowhere to go and or the sewer system is at max capacity, we get flooding in the streets and in homes. Have you seen storm drain inlets that look like this? Clogged and unable to accept water from the street. During intense storms, lawn debris and trash plug this infrastructure and cause localized flooding. Again, with the photo on the right, the amount and rate of stormwater entering a storm sewer system can overwhelm the available space, causing street level flooding. Street level flooding can also be home level flooding. Low-lying areas like the perimeter of a building leading into basements get overwhelmed with runoff with nowhere to go. Sewer backups from runoff overload can also cause basement flooding. Now begins the part of the presentation where you as a property owner or someone who knows a property owner comes in. Streamside property owners can plant riparian buffers, which again is the strip of native trees and shrubs that lines along the banks. So for those of us that do not have waterfront property, there are a few things to know and think about. We love neatly mowed lawns, but we need to think about them differently. If you want to help decrease downstream runoff, consider your lawn. Grass, while obviously not pavement and offers some benefits, is limited in slowing and storing stormwater runoff. Check out the roots on the grass furthest to the left. Turf grass does not pull its weight when it comes to helping to slow and absorb runoff. Neatly mowed lawns don't absorb much water compared to native trees, shrubs, and plants. Deep roots create space for water storage, and taller plants have more surface area, which means that their surfaces can act as temporary storage space. Vegetation also provides evapotranspiration services. Again, that water can evaporate into the air from the plant itself, which reduces even more runoff. Imagine it's raining in each of these photos. What happens to the rain runoff on the left? And what happens to the rain runoff on the right? On the left, some of the rain will be absorbed by the lawn and a portion will flow off the lawn, onto the sidewalk, onto the street, and into the storm drain. On the right, the rain will be slowed down by plantings, which will greatly reduce the amount of runoff entering the storm drain, or contribute to blocking storm drains by picking up litter or debris. It is not a complete solution. Water will still run off the landscape on the right, but it will help. A single yard of all neatly mowed grass, not a big deal. All of the yards on the street, all of the lawns in the neighborhood, all of the lawns in the watershed, all of these add up. We're not digging into solutions in this, but an internet search of stormwater friendly yards will bring up thousands of hits. It's like adjusting the height on your mower to not cut the grasses short, change portions of a lawn to meadows, plant trees, install rain gardens, and so forth. What happens when it rains in each of these photos? This is not an apples to apples comparison. One is a parking lot of a business and the other is a residential street. But this is another example of applying what we just learned, that grass does not have long roots, which limits ground storage space for water, which increases runoff. We know that taller plants, shrubs, and trees have longer roots and they have surface area to slow both rain and runoff. The landscaping on the right was intentionally chosen to slow and absorb runoff. When it rains in the photo on the left, I imagine rain running off each and every one of those yards, flowing onto sidewalks and streets and into storm drains. There's nothing to slow down rain or increase ground storage. Don't forget the watershed. What happens upstream does not stay upstream. Property management choices add up. Why does it flood? Because it's supposed to. But we have changed our landscape and our streams, which causes harms to people and properties. It is raining more, and it is projected to continue that pattern well into the future. Well, you have homework if you haven't already done these things. Watch where the rain goes on your property, in your neighborhood, in the park. Think about what could be different. More trees, more shrubs, taller grasses, rain gardens. Think about the streams. Do they have space to roam? Are they vegetated? Is there space for floodwaters? If you don't already know, what watershed do you live in and what other zip codes are in your watershed? Not a property owner? Tell a friend or family member who is a property owner about what you learned today. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, there are some really big problems to tackle to address stormwater flooding. But because everyone lives in a watershed, everyone can help to reduce stormwater and flooding. If every property owner made some changes, there would be a reduction in stormwater. This is not the solution, this is part of the solution. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. I'll open it up to questions if there are any. If you think of a question after this webinar has ended, please feel free to reach out. You'll also be receiving an email with links to resources and a survey to help us move forward with creating content that's useful for you. So please fill out the survey, and thank you for listening today.
Thanks, Rebecca. That was great. So we have one question. A small creek on my property was previously managed with grass lawn right up to its edge and has channeled several feet down into the clay over many years. We're working to replant a riparian buffer and transition the lawn to meadow, but are there other steps we should be taking to try and restore this creek more effectively or to raise the depth of the creek?
Well, Amy, you might have more to add than I have, but I think that depends on your budget, because getting into more intense stream work, like laying back banks, takes money and also possibly permits. So From what I know of your situation, just doing what you can with planting trees and establishing meadow is a really positive step.
Yeah, I would agree. That's definitely the first step. You could also um, try like planting just live stakes along the bank in addition to your buffer and meadow work. Those are really the simplest solutions. Once you get more into kind of higher level solutions, you're looking at kind of more design, more engineering, more permitting kind of work. Does anybody have any other questions?
Great. Well, thanks for coming. Even in webinar recordings, I still use my hands while I'm talking and just alone by myself in a room, which is interesting. So this was my first webinar. So thank you for attending, and please keep a lookout for that survey. Have a great day, everybody.